Right then, we have an absolute belter of a show for you, ladies and gentlemen, today. So welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. As always, I do hope you are doing well, friends. I really do hope that. And welcome back to Chelsea News, which is, of course, the daily series here on Football Therapy, where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, of course. A lot at the moment, new gaffer, transfers, Spurs. Lots of stuff, giving you my thoughts on it, as always, more importantly, asking for yours. In today's content, lots of stuff, some stuff from Cy Phillips' Substack. Shout out to Phillips, who of course got early calls on Xabi Alonso. Speaking about transfers now, and of course there will have to be a relative amount of rebuilding for Xabi Alonso to make this Chelsea team a formidable force. There will be a couple of articles on The Athletic about the new Chelsea gaffer, not head coach, manager, on there as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that, some about his coaching staff, who he's bringing, Callum McFarlane, hashtag Shane, the legacy lives on. I believe he's joining the backroom staff. The players seemingly really like him at Chelsea, which is funny. Not as funny, it's great, but considering like Liam Rosenior, who is like, had a big footballing career, had a really good managerial job trajectory, never had the respect of the players, but McFarlane, who's like didn't really have a football career, I believe he didn't, doesn't even have a pro license. The players quite like him, so fair ruddy play. Do you know what I mean? He can hang around. I do also want to reference a segment of a Telegraph article from Matt Law explaining how the football leadership team works at Chelsea. Who does what? We won't spend too much time on it, but there's this idea that there's just a big group of sporting directors. But apparently they do have specific jobs, and I feel like it's important to learn about that before we speak about Xabi, before we speak about the transfers. I'm not going to preview the Spurs game today, because I hope we win, and then I hope Spurs lose their last game, and West Ham can summon a win on the final day to send Spurs down, but it's looking unlikely. For us now, even though there's games left in the season, we are very much projecting into the future. Let's just hope that these players in the next couple of games can put performances in to impress the new manager, not head coach, manager. So that's all being said, let's get into it. Right then, so this is a segment of an article from Matt Law a day or two ago, speaking about the leadership here, how Chelsea's leadership team works. Chelsea's leadership team of Winstanley, Stewart, Shields, Jewell and Fallows retain the confidence of the Blue co-owners. I mean, they have hired a big boy manager now, but they've been on the ropes for a long time. The five men have come under fire from critics of Chelsea, and yeah, loads of people, really. How many people in public have gone, wow, look at those sporting directors, they're so good. Spoiler, few to none. Telegraph Sport understands the club owners remain committed to the structure and their ability to deliver success. Talks about how the players underperforming will miss out on 20% of their payment packages. But does this count for the sporting directors? I am not so sure. It talks about the period of self-reflection, sacking Maresca, sacking Rosenior, and of course now we've got Xabi Alonso. But let's learn about the axis of evil. The Chelsea sporting hierarchy, man. Right. Still, come on down. Contestant number 1, Paul Winstanley. There he is, looking very happy with himself. Contrary to a popular opinion, Winstanley is not responsible for the identification of transfer targets. His work centres more around the delivery of targets. I suppose what more of a Marina Granovskaya of the modern age. Though talking to and negotiating with clubs and agents, he was heavily involved in player sales and renewal of contracts, so not talent ID and scouting. Apparently Spurs were in for him as well, you know, whatever. There we go. So now we're here with his bestie and the guy who's glued to his hip, Lawrence Stewart, the co-sporting director. Despite his title, Stewart's role is more akin to a technical director, so like the modern day Michael Emenalo, if we're making more comparisons to the Roman era. He is responsible for budget planning and style of play. Jesus Christ. So you're the guys who's been screwing up Chelsea. You're the guy who spent 2 million and made us lose all style of identity and football philosophy. Right. That has included setting a broad style. So yeah, this is one thing. Like, the football from the academy all the way up to the first team are supposed to play a similar style of football. So when the players come in from the under-21s, they can slot in. In theory. It's not like we've seen much of that. It's not like Shimmeuka, PL2 player of the season, captaining under-21 side as a teenager. He's not really been integrated much, but you could put that down to your Marescas and your Rosinias, maybe. I don't know. But so far, I would argue Lawrence Stewart's body of work at Chelsea, should that be his, stuff, hasn't been massively impressive. Joe Shields, so the Man City guy, the kinetic team guy, brings in all his old boys from his old group to coach Chelsea. Another former City man, Shields is responsible for player ID through scouting and squad planning for the first team and the academy. A number of recent Chelsea signings, including Palmer, Adebayo, Lavia, Gittins and Delap, have all played for former clubs of Shields, Southampton, Man City, yada yada yada. Now Sam Jewell, he's the more recent one, I believe. He was a co-heading squad identification and scouting. Jules' remit extends past Chelsea and to Blue Coat's other sister club, of course, Strasbourg. There have been several deals between Chelsea and Strasbourg in recent years. Of course, Mega coming to London from League 1. Jules works closely with Winstanley for that. Who he's known for years, #mates, a bit of a boys' club. Dave Fallows. So this is the new geezer, the newest member of the Chelsea leadership team. Fallows is integrating himself into the setup. His responsibilities include data. God, how they love data. Scouting and background checks on prospective signings, which Chelsea are likely to lean more heavily on this summer. Are we? Do we even have the money? Suggestions that Fallows has been leading the interest in Xabi Alonso through his links in Liverpool, where he spent 12 years, have been played down. He's also worked previously at City. Imagine my shock. But we've since locked down Xabi Alonso. But it's interesting to learn that the silly mob of five, the not so fantastic five, do in theory all have different jobs. And look, you got a good gaffer in. He is the manager. Apparently they have given him more control. Let us pray. Alright, so we've got to keep this moving. There's a couple of articles on The Athletic about Xabi Alonso. He will be a huge talking point indeed until he starts coaching Chelsea and beyond. It's a new high-octane and exciting appointment. He does have aura. He's a cool dude and a great manager and a manager that commands respect. So the first article... Xabi Alonso bringing 4 Real Madrid coaches to stay, and Callum McFarlane is set to stay. At time of recording, Shane has spoken to the media pre-Spurs press conference, and he says he doesn't know about that yet, or don't know if he's allowed to talk about it. But this is obviously very, very important, the coaching staff, and we're going to learn a little bit about it now by an article from Mario Cortegana and Simon Johnson, of course, Chelsea correspondent. Right! Xabi Alonso's long-term assistant coach, Sebastian Barria, is one of the 4 members of his Real Madrid backroom staff who are set to join him at Chelsea. The Kings of the Kings Road. Assistants Alberto Enquina and Bernat Labian, plus fitness coach Ismael Gamforte Lopez, sorry all you Spanish speakers out there, are now also expected to move to Stamford Bridge with Alonso. Interim head coach Callum McFarlane, #Shane, is set to remain at the club and be part of the new manager's backroom staff. He's done so well out of this, old Shane, isn't he? No pro license, UEFA pro license. He looks he's clearly quite confident, and he's sort of just gone through the motions. He's done a cup final at Wembley against Guardiola City, handled himself well. He took a point off at the Etihad. Beat Leeds in the semi-final at Wembley again. I know we got touched up by Forest, but he's done, considering his standing in the game, he looks like, when he speaks, that he's bricking himself, but then he speaks and he's just I think he's just quite chill. It looks like he's got, maybe wrongly, because he's not emitting this charisma or whatever, but he looks a little bit like Rabbit in the Headlights. but he's also real, super real. He's not like Rosinia giving out these like, well, we respect the ball, corner assignments, culture, all this stuff. He's just speaking real, like, this is Chelsea, manager's going to come, now we got to win, this, that, and the other. And he's pretty chill, but I just think, like, he looks like he's scared, but I don't think he is. Either way, what story for Callum McFarlane, man. Like, incredible, really. Needs to be said. So he will remain part of the backroom staff. Chelsea set-piece coach Bernardo Cueva, who I must say I've been rather underwhelmed by since his appointment at Chelsea, especially since hearing football tactico analyst from Tifo, JJ Bull, say he's a bit of a genius, and this is quite the get for Chelsea. I have not felt that, JJ Bull. Maybe his time's yet to come. Anyway, who cares? Arsenal have bored the league this season with their set pieces. We're going to bring back total football next season. So who needs set piece coaches? And goalkeeping coach Ben Roberts will remain at the club, who has got an absolute... He loves... I'm really trying to say anything rude. He loves Rob Sanchez, who I still think is just not good enough. Every now and again he's really good passable. Which is my stomach rumble then. He's quite passable, but now and again I'll never be convinced by Sanchez. Ben Roberts bloody loves him. They're both also expected to stay, Cueva and Roberts. Alonso gave the Madrid backroom staff an extensive refresh upon his appointment last summer. There remains a possibility that he could bring more coaches to Chelsea. The 44-year-old was appointed Chelsea manager on Sunday on a 4-year deal. The job marks his return to management after being sacked by Madrid in January. All 4 coaches departed alongside him. This is always the way, isn't it? When a coach brings their coaching staff with them all over the gaff. This has been the case for years. At least like 1 or 2, often a team in this instance, and they work well together, and that's how it works. It makes sense to me. The former midfielder worked with Padilla since the beginning of his coaching career, dating back to Madrid's under-14s in 2018. He spent 2 decades working with him in Madrid's academy, before joining Alonso at Real Sociedad B's team in 2019, and of course joined him at Bayer Leverkusen and won that amazing invincible domestic season. Alonso relies on Parilla in particular for defensive work and set pieces. Look out, Cueva! There's a new boy in town. And it's a Spanish man. There's a bit more of a sort of lore here, story of the other guys, and we know all about McFarlane. So yeah, he begins on July the 1st. Let's move on. Alonso and his gaggle of coaching compadres. We are going to do one more article, a little bit longer before we get into the transfers or in the Cy Phillips Substack section. We are going to, for reference this. Alonso choosing Chelsea is a leap of faith. A coup for the club who must make it work. And I do think this is important to speak about because it's a huge coup. It's a leap of faith from Alonso. And my giddy aunt, it has to work, at least to a degree, at least to make us slightly good again and build a team and a culture. Even if he lasts for the dizzying heights of like 2.5 years, which seems wild to say. Now that's the dizzying heights. Chelsea haven't had a coach to stay for 3 years since Mourinho Mark 1. Deep that. Like 23 years ago, whenever the hell it was. Like, what? It's a long time ago. Ever since then, 18 months, I believe, is the average tenure. So, it can't be another 18-monther. It has to be at least 2 good years. And if he does leave for whatever reason, it needs to be like as most amicable as possible. Like a kind of upgrade of Pochettino when took us from 12 to 6. They all shook hands and parted ways, and it was like, okay, whatever. But I'm not trying to sack Alonso before he's even joined, but I think it's such a huge coup that we do need to take time and really absorb an article like this before we get into stuff like transfers. Because I've been gassed up. Like many Chelsea fans and content creators, jumping all over the gaff. Really, really huge dopamine hit. Some people are saying, and I can kind of see the perspective, obviously trophies are everything, especially with Chelsea's recent history. If you said, like, what would you rather, win the FA Cup and hire Marco Silva because you missed out on Alonso, or, lose the FA Cup narrowly, but you get Xabi Alonso and he's been given the title manager and not head coach? A lot of Chelsea fans, possibly me included, would be saying, give me the latter. In an ideal world, you want both. But if you had a choice, so I'm talking about the excitement and dopamine hit for football fans. Anyway, let's read this article by Stewart James. It goes like a little something like this. It's a little bit of intuition, a connection with the right moment in the right place. That was Xabi Alonso talking 2.5 years ago, explaining how and why he had decided that Bayer Leverkusen was his destination of choice for his first top flight job in football management. Quote, previously, I had other opportunities, he told The Guardian in an interview, but I didn't see that clearly. That's why I didn't want to go anywhere when I wasn't convinced. Wow. If we've convinced you, bloody heck. On the face of it, it's hard to understand why Alonso is convinced by Chelsea right now. The red flags aren't difficult to spot at a club that has gained a reputation of being unmanageable. This isn't campaign against Chelsea stuff, guys. This is a journalist speaking the truth. The Spaniard will be the 5th permanent appointment in the dugout in just a 4-year ownership tenure of Bluco, and there's very little evidence across that time that the consortium led by Clearlake Capital and Todd Bowley has a strategy in place to provide a platform for stability or success, unless signing as many young players as possible qualifies as success. But well done, mate. Liam Rosenior, a raw and inexperienced coach, was never going to turn down the chance to be at charge of Chelsea, and the same goes for his predecessor, Maresca, who had just won promotion from the Championship with Leicester. Indeedy, you can make a similar case for Graham Potter. Yep, I'd make a case. But Alonso, who was regarded as one of the brightest young managers in Europe when he left Leverkusen for Madrid last summer, feels different. Again, for me, he's the outstanding managerial candidate on the market, young or old. He's the best. He's the best maybe slightly because he's young, so he's not gonna if you got Guardiola, for example, tomorrow, I'd say Guardiola's best. He's still Guardiola, but his best years are behind him. Excuse me. It's hard to escape the feeling that Chelsea are in their current state. We're in 10th. Oh, man, I swear we're always in 10th for the hard times. 30 points behind Arsenal. Yuck. On the coattails, Bournemouth, Brighton and Brentford need Alonso far more than Alonso needs Chelsea. Do we? Maybe he just feels like it's right. Maybe that magic PowerPoint's come out again from the sporting directors that conned loads of players into joining Chelsea. A little refresh and an update, and now they got a manager in. Is a real top manager going to come to Chelsea Football Club at the moment with the position we're in? This is what JT said on social media last month. And it turns out the answer is yes. Yes, it is, John. Terry is not everyone's cup of tea, and there's also an argument that he has his own agenda after admitting he was frustrated about not getting the job, yada, yada, yada. In the present position, it wasn't without merit what he said, basically, here. Chelsea have spent more than £1.8 billion since Bluco came in 2022, wasting huge sums of money on flawed recruitment policy that their own left-back in Marc Cucurella identified as a problem. Of course, he did an interview with The Athletic saying, look, we've got good players, the foundations are there, but to fight for major trophies such as the Premier League and the Champions League, you need more, said the Spanish international. Oh, such a hay fever. Signing young players might complicate things to achieve these goals. Real talk. He's like, bring in the good guys, the experienced guys, now. Well, Cucurella will be happy that Spanish legend Alonso's coming to coach him, no diggity, no doubt. Others, talking more broadly about football, not specifically about Chelsea, have highlighted the folly of this kind of strategy in the transfer market. To only recruit players 22 or under 24 would be ridiculous because you want to get the best value you can when a 35-year-old, whether it's a 35-year-old or an 18-year-old. Luke Braun, a scientific advisor for Teamworks, the former Harvard statistics professor whose career includes spells working with the Italian football club Roma, NBA team Sacramento Kings, he told The Athletic last year. He was sitting alongside Billy Beane at the time, who remarks a penny, or £1.8 billion, for Beane's thoughts on Chelsea's own version of Moneyball. And it does give Moneyball. For those of you who haven't seen the film Moneyball, go and see it. It's a flick about a real story, an amazing story about how people build a team through data and getting ahead in margins rather than, throwing loads of cash like Galacticos at Real Madrid, like Man United sort of the last 15 years, and indeed Chelsea on and off in the successful and non-successful times of the Abramovich era. And just clear like spending loads of money and not doing anything. Yes, so basically there's a little bit here highlighting how Chelsea have done bad with loads of spend. With all that in mind, it feels Alonso is taking a sizable leap of faith here, out of the frying pan of Real Madrid, where he lasted 7 months before his dismissal in January, on the back of something close to player mutiny, and into the Chelsea fire. But I'll argue it's not quite as hot as over at Real Madrid. In the eyes of many, Liverpool would have felt like a much more natural fit for Alonso, who's spoken in the past about his deep affection for the club where he spent 5 seasons, making more than 200 appearances and winning the Champions League. You know how special Liverpool is. Once a red, always a red, and that's not a slogan, that's not a logo, it's a real share that belonging, he said. Alonso back in 2019. Well, it's time to dunk on those Scousers, Xabi. The past is the past, and the future is blue. The reality is there isn't a job available at Anfield right now. Thank goodness for that. By the way, thank you so much, FSG, for keeping on the slot. Thank you so much, because we needed that, Indeed, even if Liverpool's owners did sack Slot in the summer, there's no guarantee they would have made Alonso their main target. They preferred Slot 2 years ago when Alonso ruled himself out to commit to a second season at Leverkusen, and of course he knew Real Madrid could have been around the corner. Apparently, there's some stuff here that suggests that they're almost a bit burned by his rejection. And again, I thank Xabi there as well. I thank all the leading events that have led up to him being appointed Chelsea manager. I'm just going to skip forward a little bit. As much as easy as it is to question Alonso's decision to join Chelsea, the world of football management is complex, and playing the waiting game can be dangerous indeed. Timing is always a big part of jobs that are turned down, taken by managers, yada yada yada. You gotta compromise. It's real life, baby. In Alonso's case, he was operating from a position of strength in his talks with Chelsea because of his stock and the club's predicament. The fact that he's the first, quote, manager to be appointed by Blueco feels significant, a title that was Chelsea's suggestion, and reflects Alonso's seniority compared to his predecessors. And, he's certainly earned it. I still, this is the coup of many years in terms of club's predicament and situation. An achieved target, absolutely does command that, if you ask me. Crucially for Alonso, he will influence and voice at Chelsea. He will have influence, which will be a key factor in his decision to take the job, which contrasts sharply with his negative experience at Real Madrid, where he didn't feel supported by the club's management, and those close to him labelled the team uncoachable. I need to sneeze 1 second. Ooh, right. So with that, basically, he didn't feel supported by the hierarchy. The players refused to run and do tactics, and Vinny Jr. refused to sign a new deal if he was still there. None of that at Chelsea. Everyone's going to listen to you, hopefully, touch wood, hopefully, and players should respect you. This Chelsea team is closer to the Bayer Leverkusen than is Real Madrid, in both good and bad ways. And it should, in theory, Liam Twomey articulated it very well on the Totally Football show. Speaking about, not because it's a younger team like Leverkusen, but it's the kind of, obviously Chelsea are a bigger team than Bayer Leverkusen, but they're not as big as Real Madrid. And the players are closer to being these coachable players like Leverkusen. It's not one of his previous clubs. He won't have that pressure. He gets to live in Southwest London. It's all pretty cool. Everything's great. It could work out, but no one wants to see it through that lens. It's just want to be like, oh, he's mental. He's joining Chelsea. But when you deep it, really truly deep it, the players that are available, the talent, the power that he's been granted from one of these massive European powerhouses, away from the scrutiny of one of his former clubs, one of his three. He's already done Real Madrid. Bayern companies there, and he ain't going anywhere. Liverpool, again, you sort of don't want to touch that right now. Chelsea's away from home, as it were. Big club, big opportunity, and you're negotiating as a coach. No, as a head coach. No, as manager. You're negotiating as a manager from a position of strength, which makes Chelsea really ideal for him. Don't worry. People who criticise in the media will catch up to that eventually. Right, so it's going to be slightly longer content today, but do forgive me, I wanted to get through a lot. Yes, so we are going to head over to Cy Phillips' Substack now. Do check him out, he's got good information, as you guys would have seen in recent pieces of contact. Chelsea, again, discussing ambitious move to bring former player back to the club. Dun, dun, dun. No, not Antonio Rudiger for this one. Someone else. Let me just read through. We are starting to hear more around bits and pieces for transfer plans at Chelsea this summer, with Xabi Alonso now being officially confirmed as the new manager. We had a story out earlier today that a name has come to the forefront and the thinking of the club. Rising Belgian star, I think kid from Ajax. I haven't discussed him yet, but we can pick that up another time. SPTC sources can confirm again that Chelsea are exploring a move to bring Lewis Hall back to the club from Newcastle, in a source that has been described as a hugely ambitious idea to bring back the England international back to Stamford Bridge. Now, Chelsea are seriously exploring a move to sign Hall this summer. It's an internal club discussion at the moment, looking at ways to make it happen. As we have already reported, Alonso wants to keep Marc Cucurella, unsurprisingly. Amazing player, both Spanish internationals. I'm sure they can make each other happy. And we'll sit down with the Spanish international to discuss staying. However, he's got 2 years left on his contract. Everyone knows his desire to be back in Spain one day before he retires. But also, there's strong Man City links coming out as well. Do not go Man City, Cucurella. Oh, it's Maresca, isn't it? Maresca's going to want to take both Cucurella and Enzo Fernandez. Two Man City, I should say. Our sources have heard that Cucurella Our sources have heard that Cucurella has been set on leaving Chelsea since January. Ooh. That's the bad kind of juicy gossip. So the club and Alonso will need to decide how to proceed with this, although I'm sure Hall is a player that Alonso would love to have as well. Okay, well that sucks about Cucurella. He does have 2 years left on his deal. I wonder if Chelsea will bend their rules again and let him go down to 1 and have him have a year under Spanish-speaking superstar Xabi Alonso. Maybe that'll be enough. I mean, if you're going to bring one manager in to convince Marc Cucurella to stay, I mean, probably try and get a Barcelona legend rather than a Real Madrid legend, because he's proper, Catalan, La Masia, Barca player, isn't he? Cucurella. But if we can convince him to stay, maybe Xabi Alonso can do it. On Lewis Hall, buying him back for a lot of money would feel quite embarrassing. There'll be no buyback clause for him. I can't imagine it'll be a huge amount of money. He did lock down Lamine Yamal in the Champions League. He's done some really high profile performances for Newcastle. The two left back spots for England it was Lewis Hall. He was the guy. Until, of course, Nico O'Reilly exploded on the scene and has just become this oddly amazing player. So it'll be Nico O'Reilly starting at left back with Lewis Hall behind. But Lewis Hall's still young. Would he want to leave Newcastle? He is what can't be forgotten here. And you'd remember when we sold him. He's a huge Newcastle United fan. So it's kind of like a dream transfer. He had a few appearances for Chelsea. Tuchel liked him. Tuchel left. We sold him. He didn't get in the team straight away, like Livramento, the other Chelsea academy fullback that went to Newcastle. But he loves Newcastle, and he is a Toon fan, and he loves playing for them. But Newcastle are completely out of sorts. They're going to win no trophies, finish mid-table. Who does that remind you of? And they're going to be a little bit strapped for cash. The Saudis, the Public Investment Fund, who own Newcastle, are sort of losing interest a little bit. And they don't know who's going to manage them next, and other players might leave as well. So it might, despite us constantly being in chaos, Chelsea, we still might somehow, like we somehow do every now and again, look like an attractive proposition. He does know the club. If he had to leave Newcastle, maybe he'd consider coming back to Chelsea. Maybe, but you just don't know what's going on in the player's head. I must say, if we're targeting a left back, even though it's like, they're paying a lot of money to get their old player back, it's like, Lukaku again, they had him, and now they're paying 100 million for him, yada, yada, yada. But there is something about Lewis Hall that he's just a terrific left back that's got his best years in front of him. If you look at it in isolation, if you take away the narrative that we had him and sold him and he loves Newcastle and maybe doesn't love Chelsea as much, I don't know, man. We need a left back. There's a good left back. Surely it's that simple, no? All right, then. Let's talk about some other stuff. This is the final segment. A bit longer today, like I said. Again, Cy Phillips' Substack. Strikers. Strikers. Exclusive striker reshuffle plans with 5 targets being explored. And we will go through those. Chelsea are looking to perform a bit of a striker reshuffle this summer, with a number of names possibly being moved on. We have 5 striker targets that the club are looking at, revealed further down this article. But there are other names as well on Chelsea's radar, and potentially now some names that Xabi Alonso will bring to the forefront for the club to take a look at. There are situations with Chelsea's current strikers as well, with 2 of them at least among certain to go. So there will be movements at the top of the pitch this summer as the club looks to add an out-and-out number 9. We still need a left winger though. There's going to be so much... Keep it locked, gang. Keep it locked to Football Therapy, because there's going to be so much stories for me to bring to you. So make sure when you're subscribed, you turn the bell on YouTube, and you're following on with notifications on your podcast apps by searching Football Therapy Podcast. And thank you for following and 5-starring. Let's read on. Cy Phillips talks Chelsea sources understand that regardless of Chelsea stance, Barcelona are still looking to make an offer to sign Joao Pedro ahead of the World Cup. You guys can suck a fat one, mate. Pedro communicated to his agents that he was keen to move there, and also spoke with Rafinha about the move. Stop talking to Rafinha. Stop talking to our striker. I mean, I can understand, despite the excitement of Xabi Alonso, why Hansi Flick's high-flying Barcelona and the Brazilian boys there like Rafinha, how that is alluring. Go and win loads of titles and maybe Champions Leagues with Barcelona. I get it, but we've only had you for 1 season. Can you just don't leave? Stay. Don't go. There is a chance now that with Xabi Alonso coming in, then he will turn the situation around and keep Pedro content. Pedro is not, quote, unhappy at Chelsea. It's more of the case that Barcelona calling is being hard to resist for any player, especially with how good they are right now. Chelsea's stance remains he's not for sale. Wow. So, but he's scoring goals at Chelsea. He knows he's playing with good players like Stewart, Santos, and who are his Brazilian teammates. Cole Palmer will find form again. I think Chelsea and Xabi Alonso will be like, look, just chill for a season. Just see what we got here. It's so easy to understand why players might want to jump ship. And as much as I love Joao Pedro, I kind of get it. Like, you know, he came in, we pulled him off a Brazilian beach. He helped us win the Club World Cup. He's easily our player of the season. We owe him quite a bit. I don't think he owes us much. And if Barcelona comes calling, he could be like, look, guys, I tried. I scored loads of goals for you, but Barca, can I go, please? You'll make profit. But yeah, we must keep hold of Joao Pedro at all costs, mate. Both Liam Delap and Gue are expected to be sold or at least loaned with an option or obligation to be sold this summer. Delap has a lot of interest coming in, and his agents have been speaking to clubs about a move. Chelsea will look to bring in another new 9, hopefully to complement and provide better competition for Joao Pedro. These are just some of the names we're hearing over the weekend, but remember, it's not just these names the club's looking at, there are more. So know that the following names have at least been discussed internally at the club, or heavily scouted this season, and above all, as well, the agent and possibility coming to the club as we head towards the transfer window opening up. Right, okay. So I'm going to go through a few here. I'm going to go through them. One of them, I must say, I don't really know. Pio Esposito, an Inter player. Internazionale. I have to look up his stats if that develops. Ollie Watkins, Villa. I mean, he's in scintillating form at the moment. He'd be a massive upgrade to Delap as a second choice. Does Ollie Watkins want to come to a no European football team to play second choice, or does he want to play Champions League football with Aston Villa after winning a trophy this season? Brian Brobbey for Sunderland. Now, a lot of people might turn their nose up at this, but he has been instrumental, not necessarily by goal scoring, but just being a really good facilitator and proper number 9 for Sunderland. Something that sadly Liam Delap hasn't offered for Chelsea. Delap might have had 2 games for Chelsea where you see, I can see what he could offer. But that's pretty much it. Brian Brobbey might not get people excited, but again, if Alonso's sitting in a room with some sporting directors and says, yeah, bring me him, he's exactly what I need. There you go, mate, give it to him. Just give that here, there you go. This is fascinating. Nick Woltemade, who we had been linked with previously. Again, Newcastle United, maybe they need a fire sale. He is a weird player. He's a sort of number 10. He's a 9.5 despite being massive. People actually say he works a bit better withdrawn into the midfield. The truth is, he costs 80 million for Newcastle. They would have to make a loss on him. They would have to, I don't know, how much do you pay for Woltemade? 60? So they make an immediate 20 million loss. And is he even the guy? Some of you might say yes, but I'm not sure that's me. I've talked about Brian Brobbey, Watkins, Esposito. Finally, a genuinely interesting one and unsurprising. Igor Thiago, who of course scored a lot of goals. He is a proper number 9. You want to talk about a conventional number 9. The Brentford striker. They do sell top players as part of their model, Brentford. They sell top strikers, whether it's Vissa for 60 million, whether it's Mbomo for 72 million, whether it's Ivan Toney for many millions, whether it's the aforementioned Ollie Watkins for many millions. They sell strikers for lots of money. That's just what they do. And Igor Thiago said at the London Football Awards, he can't wait. He can't wait to play with Estevao for Brazil, or he'd like to play with him. Bit of a link there. And again, I think if we convince Joao Pedro to stay and be happy, Chelsea's number 1 striker, I wouldn't hate someone like Igor Thiago as a massive upgrade to Liam Delap. Of course, we can't forget in this situation that Emmanuel Omega's coming, I think, still. I mean, that's the plan. So much as since he signed that agreement and signed for Chelsea and, gone back on loan to Strasbourg, since that's happened, so much has changed. Multiple managers have changed to the point where maybe Alonso, if he says, nah, I don't really fancy him, they'll go, all right, we'll send him back to Strasbourg, we'll do it here, we'll send him there, we'll get you someone else. Just to land this plane, Woltemade is the name we've heard about the most for months now. That seems crazy. But other names such as Watkins have now come to the forefront as well. It will be, that will be so. Blue Code talk about self-reflection, changing the model. Bringing in Xabi Alonso, letting him be manager rather than head coach. Signing a striker like Watkins with no resale value whatsoever. That will be changing the model. Will be an interesting situation to see how it plays out, to see if Alonso brings in any striker targets to the table. I don't believe any of these will be specifically what Alonso has asked for, because it's still a bit early, but he will be consulted over these names as for Chelsea to look at them, and he will need to sign off on these players. Wow! I can't believe it. It's a 40-minute video. I apologise to you who prefer the shorter videos, but I had so much to get into today, as I will probably most days in the days coming for football therapy and Chelsea and transfers and Xabi and the game against Spurs. There's so much to happen here. Guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for locking in. I'll try and put the timestamps in for this video because it's so freaking long. Thank you for liking and subscribing on YouTube, following and 5-starring on your podcast app simply by searching Football Therapy Podcast. Yeah, man, this possibly is my longest ever video. That's wild. All right, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. Peace.